the November meeting of the St. Pete Beach Board of Adjustment and Appeal. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If the clerk's ready, roll call.
Roll call. Member Chase?
Here.
Member Bomar?
Here.
Member Lawson?
Here.
Member Small?
Here.
Chair Skipper?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Before we get started today, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. But would you like to swear in any of the audience? If anybody's planning on speaking needs to be sworn in prior to.
Anybody who's speaking to the board or making a presentation needs to be sworn in. Please stand. If you plan to do so, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the information or factual representation that you are about to give or present to the board is truthful?
Yes.
Okay, the approval of the agenda, we're moving on with that. We have two items on the agenda today. And at this point, is there any audience comment? If you want to speak on anything other than the cases that are here, this is the appropriate time to do that. So if there's anything you'd like to speak on, this is the time. If not, we'll move on into the agenda.
Chair Skipper, if I may, before moving on the action items, can we just get a motion on the approval of the agenda?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, I was going to ask if, just for a brief discussion at the end about the role of residents as advocates while serving on boards.
About the what?
About the role of residents serving on boards, also participating as advocates for issues in the community.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of the agenda, the two items that are on the agenda, plus the additional conversation at the end.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on now to the approval of the previous minutes.
Motion to approve minutes from the meeting on October 25th.
Second.
A motion and second. Roll call?
Member Lawson?
Yes.
Member Small?
Yes.
Member Bomar?
Yes.
Chair Skipper?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our first item then is the action item. It's case 23060, 2005 Gulfway, and this is a continuation from last month.
Yes, Chair Skipper, and I would just like to preface this with the fact that we went through the full application staff presented, we went through public comment, we closed public comment, and then we continued it based on the board at the time. There was a split vote, and they wanted to, some of the members here wanted to take a site visit, do some additional research, so we continued it for that purpose. So I'm going to ask anyone to disclose ex parte communications, but I just want to make it clear that unless the board wants to rehash everything, which we can do, and open public comment again, which we can do, there's no requirement to do so. Right? I mean, if you want to go straight into deliberation at this point, then you have the right as the board to do that because we've already took care of those at the prior meeting. So I would like to just go ahead and disclose. If any board member has ex parte communication, now would be the time to disclose it.
I visited the site.
So you did a site visit?
Yes, site
Okay.
visit.
Yes, I also did a site visit navigating the alley in a 2016 Honda Pilot.
Okay.
I reviewed the meeting, the tape in the previous meeting. That's my communication.
Okay. Anything from you?
Nothing other than
No.
before.
Okay.
I did a site visit as well.
Okay. So at this point, it's really up to the board. I think staff is prepared to go through the presentation again, but again, that's not necessary. And if you do go through the staff presentation, then I would probably lean on the side of opening public comment again and going through the whole process again. Or you can go straight to deliberation now that all of that's been accomplished at the prior meeting.
I've watched the prior meeting. I'm okay with it. Does anybody feel differently? If not?
I did not.
Okay. Then with that being said, I think the applicant's here, but now it's the board can deliberate, ask questions of staff, the applicant, and then entertain a motion.
We have any questions anybody like to ask?
Mr. Chair, I had two potential hypotheticals I would like to maybe just present for our consideration, for the applicant's consideration. One possibility, having done a site visit navigating the alley, understanding that the property in question is at the T of the alley, I did not find any difficulty maneuvering based upon the proposed expansion, but recognizing that it is a significant increase in the setback, I was wondering if the resident might be willing potentially to improve the setback requirement by 2 feet, taking the expansion down from the proposed amount by an additional 2 feet, which would basically, looking at page 23 in the packet, it essentially reduces the overall front-back setback on the property to 1 foot, because he has extra, he's 7 feet better than setback on the front. That'd be one possibility. The second possibility that I briefly discussed with Assistant City Attorney is, would it be possible, just because I do feel like the applicant has presented a very strong case in terms of the criteria, in terms of the, in the interest of justice, wanting to see this done, the feasibility of this backwards expansion versus effectively needing to demolish the house and redo the foundation to go up. Would the resident be willing to actually put a perpetual restriction on the deed saying, if we allow this variance, there can be no further expansion of the property, either up or out, until the setbacks are brought back into compliance, and doing that in such a way that even if you were to sell the house, the new owner, because this is a deed restriction on the deed that's perpetual, it's like you just can't, we're going to give you this, but that's all we're going to give you ever. So I just have those two hypotheticals to consider for our conversation, as well as potentially the residents.
And the latter, you discussed with Matthew, is that possible, or?
I think it's up to the applicant. It is, so we were discussing hypotheticals,
Yeah.
right? So it wasn't ex parte or anything, but at the end of the day, we have conditions at times that require easements. We have conditions at times that require recording of certain things for CUPs, so it would be somewhat similar. The only issue I had was the zoning district allows, it's a permitted right to have the height.
Right.
That's my struggle. Is you can do that without anyone as an administrative approval. But I'm not going to speak for the applicant. If the applicant wants to sign a deed restrict, I mean, if he wants to do that, then that's his prerogative as the property owner.
So I guess I put it to our consideration first, in the sense that, would either of those compromises bring us into a majority situation, or obviously we could have a majority with 5 people, but is that something we'd want to ask the applicant to comment on? Is that interesting?
Well, if we do we open it up? Are we opening the whole meeting up over again then?
No, you're in deliberation, and deliberation always means you can ask questions of staff, and I do think it's important with the condition that we're discussing here to have the applicant either say yay or nay, or express his opinion on it.
Could the applicant come forward? Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Dan Crow, 2005 Gulf Way.
Do you understand the condition that was talked about?
I think so. I wanted maybe to clarify the second one, just to make sure I understand it correctly. In signing that, would it be that nothing else could be done without bringing it back into conformity? So if down the road, 30 years from now, I sell the house and somebody wanted to build, but not have, obviously, not have that extra space, that they would have that option as long as they brought the home back into compliance? Let me make sure, is that the?
The intent is, even if you sold the house tomorrow,
Yep.
we give you this
yes,
variance.
yeah.
You do the expansion, we give you the variance, and you sell the house right after that?
Yeah.
The new owner can't say, now I want to add a 3rd story.
Could.
Unless I bring the entire property back into compliance with the
Yes.
setbacks.
Oh, right, that was, sorry, that was the clarification I really wanted, is that if I sold it tomorrow and they brought it back into compliance, that they weren't, everything was back into compliance, they would have the option, and me, but any owner of the home would have the option to bring it back in compliance, and they could then go up. That's as long as they came back in compliance. So
Yes.
that's the.
And I'm only speaking from some experience in North Carolina. But my understanding, at least as I experienced deed restrictions in North Carolina, is that the owner can voluntarily choose to place this restriction on the property, which then follows the property.
Right. Right.
But it's completely up to you.
Yeah.
But in this case, we would be requiring you to make that
Well, and I want to make a point, and Kristen can help me here. Your property is already non-conforming, right? So like, it wouldn't just be taking it back to where it is now.
Yeah, it's making it
It
completely.
would be
in
taking
compliance.
it back and addressing the current non-conformity on your property as well.
Okay,
I think we'd be creating a condition that no other property in the city has that I'm aware of if we do this.
No, this is definitely a first for me. It doesn't mean it's not doable, I just, yeah, I don't know how the applicant feels.
The other part was, I believe, it was requested that, could you reduce it by, was it 2
2 more
feet or
feet.
1
2
foot?
feet, well, and I was looking if it's possible to pull up on the monitor page 22 of the agenda packet, or is it 23?
Is there a specific picture? Because
It's
my,
the-
my presentation would be a little bit
So
different.
this is the schematic, this is the plans for the expansion. Page 23 of the PDF,
So it's, of the agenda packet, it's the,
The layout?
yeah,
the layout.
one right after the east side elevation.
And I was just, looking at the proposed expansion with new bedroom and then a new master bath and walk-in closet.
I think I went, oh, you know what? I wouldn't have that. This was part of my presentation. So that would be part of the submittal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I can bring that up on the overhead.
Or, excuse me, are your plans complete at this time, ready to submit for a building permit by?
yes.
Just for our
Yeah,
information?
is that fair? Yes, yes. Actually, can I ask one other
Sure.
question? And
Yes.
I'm going to be embarrassed to ask this question. I probably should know it in advance.
22.
I don't know what else is not currently in compliance. And so I could speak to this, but not knowing other things, cause I hadn't looked into that, so just is
So your current rear setback is 19.
9, okay, so is it the,
20 feet.
okay, so the only other thing out of compliance is that additional 3 inches, is that,
Correct, according to what I'm seeing.
got it, okay.
So it would effectively be, if you were to take the deed restriction, I mean, you'd literally have to take the house.
Yes.
Move it to get the setbacks into compliance,
Right,
just to keep it simple. But I think that would be the simplest way to do it.
right.
Member Lawson, is this the one you're referring to?
That'd be the next one, with the interior layout. And again, I was, just thinking about this, if I was in the applicant's shoes, I'm looking at a new bedroom that's 12 feet wide, and if I took 2 foot off the end of that expansion, that would be a 10-foot wide new bedroom for the kids. That could work, and, maybe I take some more out, a little bit out of the master bedroom, and the walk-in closet gets a little smaller, maybe the shower gets a little smaller, and the sinks are closer together. It seemed like, maybe a 2 foot shorter addition could work. But obviously, you've already have plans established, and
Right,
so, but just thinking of ways to potentially make this a bit of a compromise.
right. And I apologize, I'm thinking on the fly here. I have, well, maybe, can I ask something else, I guess?
Yes, you can.
I would have no issue with, while I'm the owner, having that on it. I also would have no issue with having an agreement that this variance request here would be reversed if another owner down the road wanted to build higher. I don't know enough about construction to know what the implications are of the pillars that currently are 3 inches out of compliance would have on another owner down the road wanting to consider building up. And so, to the extent that there was an option where I would agree, sign a deed agreement not to build up, and agree that this variance would not be, you'd have to bring this variance back in compliance for another owner if I were to sell the unit at some point.
Well, that would be another case at the time. The owner would have to come and make that argument, ask for an additional variance, and that would be in contrary to what you're offering to do.
Okay, I guess, I guess what I was asking if it's an option is if I said, I would agree that that as opposed to bringing the home completely back into compliance, bring it back into compliance with where it is now. And the reason I suggest that is only because the back, I don't know enough about construction, that the 3 pillars in the back, that if they were to be brought, I just don't know. So
Back to the current condition.
bring back to the current condition.
Basically lop off the addition.
Exactly.
And go up.
If somebody wanted to go up, they would have to lop off this, but keep those pillars there, only because I just don't know enough about construction to know what that would entail.
3 inches is fairly minor on that, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure where we got that number from. Was there a survey that we had?
I'm sorry, Chair, what was the question?
The 3 inches that it's over encroaches into the setback on the
That
rear?
is from the survey that was provided, yes. So they currently have a pre-existing non-conforming setback, and they're asking to reduce that further.
Okay.
And so I guess I was asking is, would there be, would instead option be to not be allowed to build up unless this current variance was brought back in, but not those last 3 inches only, because I don't know if somebody needed to move those and I don't know if you can
I
ask.
think you'd have to just revisit the entire case, I believe, wouldn't you, Matthew?
Yeah, we would.
Okay,
We'd have to revisit it. I'm just still thinking about this deed restrict. I would feel a lot more comfortable if it was a condition in the variance as opposed, like, the condition was what we're saying.
Okay.
Not the deed restriction, but the condition would be, you're not gonna build up.
I'm completely fine signing a deed restriction
But then
that
I just wanna be clear, because this is recorded and this is the record. You understand that building up is a permitted right that you would be giving up
yes,
if you consent to this condition.
as I guess, as the current owner, if I
Well,
sold.
yeah, you're the applicant.
Right.
Right, you have an agent here, but I just want to be clear for the record.
Yeah.
You understand that as it sits right now, you
Yeah.
could come in and build up via an administrative process.
Right.
Right? And you are giving that up knowingly, right, when you consent to this condition,
Right.
and you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that as the owner. I guess just to clarify.
You're the only one that can authorize that currently. I'm not worried about future owners.
But if I sold the home down the road, would that same restriction hold to the next owner, or is that restriction only?
They would have to come back to this board again, like you're doing now. They'd have to come back again. That's a permitted use to add a second floor on it.
I know. It does run with the land, it just doesn't get recorded. Put it this way, once you get the variance approved, you can sell it 14 times and they still get the benefit of the variance. Right, it runs with the land,
Right.
so,
Can I ask a question of
Please.
the owner? If I may, prior to purchasing the property, were you aware that it was non-conforming?
I think, yes, I think we knew that it was 3 inches back. So I didn't know if I didn't know there was anything else beyond that nonconformity with it being 3 inches back, beyond that I need to be aware of. That
Okay.
was part of it. And I'm pausing because I'm just thinking,
So I
So
just
if I-
want to be clear, the basis behind this, and I don't want to speak for the board, but
Yep.
this is my assuming, because there has to be a rational basis behind this, is if you're asking to expand this way,
Yeah.
you shouldn't also get the benefit of expanding this way
I completely.
when you're going 10 feet into the setback.
Yes, and that I'm completely fine with. I'm just trying to make sure I understand, and that's why I said for a future owner, if I get this, I'm not planning on ever going up, so frankly, that's why we could talk about this, the thing I'm just trying to understand is that if I sold it down, it's at some point down the road, and somebody else wanted to go up, I understand that they would I'm trying to think through the 3 inch. Frankly, I'm just trying to think through, I have no issue with this, except for the fact that if I sold it, well, actually, let me just so I understand. If I sold the home down the road and they wanted to build up, as long as they came back within full compliance, do they need to come back here and get approval to, that's what I'm trying to understand, I apologize.
I don't feel comfortable with hindering a future owner's permitted right. I mean, that's just my legal opinion, it's obviously the board's decision, but I don't think that that portion of this can run with the land. I think that portion of this has to be specific to the applicant if that's a condition that the board wants to entertain, with the understanding that the applicant could tomorrow sell this with a variance, and now they can build up. I'm not saying that you're going to do that, but I just have to advise the board accordingly. So, I mean, do you live there full-time? Is this your full-time residence?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
But again, I'm fine as the owner, because we're never going to build up, I'm just,
So you don't see the addition of a deed restriction that would follow the property indefinitely as a viable condition?
I don't,
And especially in the overlay.
I don't like it. I don't like it in the overlay. I'm just trying to think of, I mean, we're going through a complete overlay rewrite right now too, so it just is gonna get way too messy to track. And I think at the end of the day, the whole point of someone doing what you're doing, right, which is renovating and stuff, is to bring properties into conformity with the code, right? Not to expand legal nonconformity. So essentially what you would be doing is allowing the expansion of a legal nonconformity and taking away something that they have permitted to do, which it just doesn't sit well with me legally.
And I have to say, one of the criteria is that, you know, in the manner in which the difficulty arose, the interest of justice would be served by allowing the variance. The property is conforming in every other way, width, depth, area, everything. And as discussed at the prior meeting, the property was, the dwelling was constructed in 2001, according to the property appraiser. Where surrounding homes in that area could vary from 1938 to, you know, there's multi-families, and I do have a slide that I can show you of when you look at the area, take into consideration that there are other homes besides single-family dwellings, and they were constructed, as you know, in Paso Grill, historic, at varying different times. So I think the intent when it was built in 2001, it was meant to meet compliance for that. So that is just one thing I just wanted to bring to your attention.
Which brings me to
think
my
that's a really
question.
good-
Did they have a variance for that additional 3 inches?
They did not.
Okay, it wasn't required.
I couldn't find, unfortunately, we did have a breach of a lot of our records a few years ago, so things we may not be able to locate, but I did go back and look at the history, but they haven't really done much since it was constructed then, unfortunately.
I think Kristen's point is really important. And I did the site visit. I just feel really strongly about the usability of the alleyways in Paso Grill. And I think the nature of having, you know, a board and having a full board is we're not always going to agree on everything. And in the spirit of, it might be worth seeing where we sit right now.
I have an issue with trying to change something in the future for someone else that's another owner and then trying to make it where it's deed restricted. To me, that gets way out of what we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that.
Just to clear, I mean, legally, there are ways to do this if it's related, so I don't want anyone to think that it's impossible. It's just, there are certain requirements on these conditions, right? So, some condition, you can't approve a variance with a condition that's conditioned on something else.
I mean, that's almost everything we see in Paso Grill. We do, this could apply to all of those. And you
Correct,
start
and
putting all these conditions, deed requirements on it, how would you ever track all that?
Well, and like I said, I don't know how this property will sit. For all I know, it may come into compliance at some point if we decide to change the overlay, which they're working on, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. People change, we won't all be here. Laws change, codes change, so, yeah.
And boards change and opinions change. And they could have changed from last week to this, or last month to this month. So,
They could have, and everyone did site visits, and that was the whole purpose of the continuance, is to give you all more time to digest the materials, do what you felt was necessary, and hopefully come to a decision today.
Yeah, and that was my goal, was to understand specifically the layout. And in our car, which is not a small vehicle, I had no trouble navigating the corner, doing a 3-point turn, and it's very, I mean, this proposed expansion would be still smaller set, it's still a better situation than either the neighbors in terms of the wall and the neighbor's house.
There's not a problem turning in there. I drive a Yukon XL, and that house belonged to my father-in-law, and I went to that house for 20 years. So it's not really a problem navigating that driveway. And this being over isn't going to affect anything going in that driveway, in my opinion.
so we could go ahead and make a motion to just look at the case as it was presented?
No,
Make a motion.
yeah, at any point through deliberation,
Well, I think
any
we need
board
a new
member
motion, don't we? Just
can make a motion, yeah.
Right.
We always need a motion. But you can do it at any time, just so you know, you don't have to wait, you can make a motion. There can always be a motion on the table.
would you like to make a motion or amend yours, or stick with what you got?
Would you be hearing public comment or no
Public comment portion was closed, so unless,
on this item?
yeah, at the last meeting.
Okay.
They open and, yeah, so unless you want to open it, you can, but if not, then, yeah.
I think we
Do you
just,
want to make a motion?
I was just going to look at what the staff,
I was looking for the number.
23060.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion if that's okay.
go ahead, Mike.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve case 23060 as presented originally.
Do we have a second to that?
I second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Just to clarify the motion,
With the conditions,
well,
there was original conditions to it.
it was as if, yes, if there were conditions, if the board was going to consider and look favorably on this, to be included. So, it's on page 32 of the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the conditions recommended by the city.
City recommended denial, but if the board looked favorably,
Right.
they wanted to include some additional conditions, correct?
that's correct. So we have the addition to be constructed as per plan submitted and may not be later enclosed or lower level infill permitted without obtaining a subsequent variance. And then installation and maintenance of an outdoor grade convex reflective safety mirror for the alleyway to allow for enhanced visibility and increased safety.
So those were that's what I was talking about originally presented.
And there was
With those-
something to do with a mirror in there, did we?
Yeah.
And again, those are just suggestions in the event that you would be, and you could add to them if there's other things, or you could remove, but those were just some things staff felt might.
Those are good conditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
Do we need the mirror?
So my motion is to approve the case with the conditions recommended by the city.
I second.
Second, in agreement with that?
Yes.
Second?
Okay, any further discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Member Chase?
No.
Member Bowman?
Yes.
Member Lawson?
Yes.
Member Small?
Yes.
Chair Skipper?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck with your house. Our next case is case 23075, 8050 Coquina Way.
Just give a moment to clear out.
Yes, sir, if you give us your name and address, please.
Yes, I'm Steve Sewell, owner of the home.
If you'd like to explain what you'd like to do.
Do
Do you want to hear from staff first?
you give the address?
Yes. I got it ahead of myself. Let the staff do their report.
Clear out here first.
Yeah,
I can't hear what you're saying.
just one moment, we're just
They're
allowing them to
they're just
exit.
about out the door.
Thanks for being here. We're gonna let staff present first, and then we'll call you up for questions. Thank you.
Ryan, can I have the overhead, please? Okay, moving on to variance case number 23075, applicant and owner, smart pavers for Stevens Sewell. How do you say your last name? Sewell. Perfect. Located at 8050 Coquina Way, and the applicant today is requesting a practical difficulty variance to install a circular driveway that exceeds the maximum impervious surface ratio of 0.70 permitted with 0.82 proposed. Listing of exhibits. Here is the site outlined in red. It currently contains a single-family residence located on the waterfront, with also single-family residences to the north, south, and east, and blind paths to the west. The property is located in the RU1 zone and RU on the future land use map. Here is a survey showing the current conditions of the property. The site contains a one-story residence. It was constructed in 1965, according to the Pinellas County property appraiser, and it has a concrete driveway, rear paver patio with in-ground pool, and a dock with boat lift. The applicant is requesting to install a circular driveway that exceeds the maximum ISR of 0.70 permitted with 0.82 proposed. And here's just a side-by-side comparison. Always find that's a little helpful for you. A little bit more on the variance request detail. Now this is a little fun one than our normal, what we usually come to you. So with this one, the property is unique in that whole front portion of the front yard, there's asphalt underneath the current rocks that are there. Staff did observe that when going on the site visit. So you'll see in my zoning table or the matrix, I did increase the current ISR because of the asphalt. There is no impervious whatsoever in that front yard. So that was amended to reflect that, and I just wanted to make sure that was identified. If you looked and been like, why is that 0.95? There is a reason for that.
That is one way to do it.
Yep. So I'm going to bring you onto the property now. The noticing was completed as required and a sign posted on the property on November 21st. Here is the front of the dwelling. So you see there's a lot of that little pebble in the front yard. Underneath that is asphalt, as I'm sure the applicant and owner can attest to. This is the adjacent neighbor to the south. And here's the adjacent neighbor to the north. And this is just another angle of the property looking from south to north so you could see the existing right-of-way. So that right-of-way probably extends right up to the front door. Another view looking west, and another angle of the front yard looking to the north. And here's what staff observed when brushing away the pebbles, what was underneath. Just giving you a whole overall view of the property. Here's the rear with the patio paver and in-ground pool, and the applicant's owner's dock and boat lift, just so you could have a view of the property. And the variance criteria and comments that were included in the staff's finding report. And then staff comments. The applicant should be prepared to provide their own testimony and respond to the staff comments. The applicant should provide testimony as to the necessity and/or desire to reconfigure the existing driveway to a circular driveway and current conditions of the property. The existing right-of-way is currently 100% asphalt, and plans do show removal of the material, and the applicant should provide testimony as to the intention to remove it, and if any portions of the existing low wall located within the front yard are also to be removed. The applicant should also discuss the type of ground cover and landscaping to be installed, and if irrigation is existing or to be provided for both the front yard and within the right-of-way. So with that, staff finds the request will not have an adverse impact on the neighborhood and find the interest of justice will be served in granting the variance, and staff does recommend approval with the following conditions. The applicant will complete installation of landscaping in conformance with the Land Development Code Section 22.4 and 22.10 with landscape inspection completed and approved by zoning prior to the issuance of a final inspection or certificate of occupancy. We did receive one letter with regards to this application, and it was support.
All right, I complete that. All right, the applicant can come forward at this time now.
Thank you, board members.
Give us your name and address again, please.
Steve Sewell, 8050 Coquina Way, St. Pete Beach.
Okay? Like to tell us what what you want to do.
Thanks, Kristen. You laid it out nicely. I mean, it's one of the old 1965 homes that were asphalted all the way around and then river rock laid on top. Wonderful when I first moved there. Didn't have any landscaping to deal with, but come the first storm, it was massive flooding in the front and nowhere for the water to go. And that was at that time I decided, hey, we need to redo this somehow. So my intentions are to gather up all the rock, get rid of all the asphalt, get plant beds all the way around, a big one in the middle. I mean, it's going to open up an enormous amount of drainage, and that's all I'm looking for really is drainage and to really make the property look nicer and conform to the way the rest of the properties in the neighborhood look. I've got pictures, but everything that you have brought is just exactly the pictures I have. But again, with everything we're trying to do, just open the property up, get rid of the blacktop, put in some nice pavers, get some nice landscaping. Already done irrigation from reclaim in the back, and I have it ready to be tied off for the front, so it'll be ready to be irrigated and comply with whatever plants. And now we have a beautification program that you guys have come up with. It's fantastic, and they were going to have me knock that white wall down in the front, and then the beautification program was going to be to come take all that blacktop from the wall to the street up, and then supply the owner with a selection of whatever landscaping they were going to do. Well, my contractor is going to take up that blacktop from the white wall out to the street. They're going to take that up. So the only thing I would ask is this is another thing for the beautification process, when we do that centerpiece inside of that. Oh, sorry, must be the Italian in me. The hands are going. So, pardon me. But I'd like to maybe see if we could still do some of the beautification program. Put something in that front. If they were going to add some plants, I'd like to be a part of it. But if not, I'll handle it on my own. My big priority is to get rid of the blacktop and have a nice driveway with landscaping.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We may have a question for you.
There was a question for me?
No, there may be.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak on behalf of the applicant? Yes, sir?
I'm just a neighbor across the
Yeah,
street.
you have to come up to the podium.
So I'm Josh Wilhelm, and I live across the street at 8051 Coquina Way. And I just wanted to back it up with when we did our front yard, we tore the whole thing out, and same deal, it was pavement. Like, the guys were like, why is this pavement all up in here? So we did it and beautified ours. The neighbors on both sides have done theirs. This is the last guy we're waiting for to get it done. So, it obviously would make the neighborhood look a lot better. And I just wanted to, it looks like you already saw that it's pavement. We had the same problem. We pulled all of that up and put a nice driveway in. So,
Good. Thank you.
We'd appreciate the nicer yard. That's all I'm saying.
Josh has to look at it every day.
Every day.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, this is easy.
There's no one else here, but is there anybody in objection? If not, we'll close the public hearing. We'll open up for board discussion.
I mean, this is a no-brainer, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's-
making it 10 times nicer than it is now.
I went through that
Improving the-
myself, and I'm still
we can
putting
get rid of
notes on people's doors in our neighborhood. Hey,
Anytime we can get rid of
subside.
that asphalt is a good thing.
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions as presented by the city to include landscaping in conformance with the code prior to state or certification of occupancy.
I second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion? Not roll call, please.
Member Bomar?
Yes.
Member Lawson?
Yes.
Member Small?
Yes.
Member Chase?
Yes,
Chair Skipper?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
This timeline on my master is when I can allow my contractor to.
Why don't you get with her after, but you're,
We discussed it. They wouldn't have any
Yes.
I appreciate it.
I'll be in touch, but you can remove your sign from the wall. Properly dispose of it. Perfect.
All right, that concludes the regular agenda. We did, had another discussion you'd like to bring up?
Well, actually, we have the 2024 dates,
Meeting.
if we can, for going in order.
Okay.
Yes.
I did provide to you a copy of the approved dates that we had, as well as a one-page 2024 calendar. So just to try to bring it all together for us. I know at our previous one, and Ginny, you can help if possible, Member Chase and Member Small, we were looking at May and June?
May.
That needed it to be maybe modified?
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody need to change any of these dates?
So are the ones circled what you're proposing,
So
the new ones, or what are?
Well, no, the ones circled, and I may have gone through a couple different copies. The ones circled are holidays that we have that
Got it.
we are closed. We did have to make, I think, some changes and modifications due to holidays as well.
You get all those days off?
Maybe. And I thought I had a different one that actually circled ours, so I apologize for that. But
The 27th is Memorial Day, that Monday of May.
Are we having a meeting in December? Is there any cases for December?
yes, we are. We have one application, one practical difficulty, and I believe we have 10 waiting in the wings to be completed.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
10?
10.
Not for just December, but just.
No, no, noticing is already gone for that as
10
far as
pending.
10 pending.
Time
We
frame.
have 3 for December?
Just one.
Just one.
Just one made the cut. Yes.
She has a very strict deadline, so be appreciative of that.
But I would like to get, in all fairness, our dates hammered out because that does affect all of my noticing, my staff reports, site visits, all that good stuff. So I like to have that out so I can amend our applications appropriately for the deadlines.
Anybody want to adjust any of these dates, or?
So I guess I'm just trying to understand, what are we trying to accomplish? The last time we shared which dates we weren't here.
Correct. So, for example, you had June 17th, correct? Or am I on the wrong?
Yeah.
June
So I
20th.
think you both, if I remember, I think you had an issue with May, correct?
I have an issue with May also.
And then,
And June.
and June. So May 29th and June 26th don't work. So the idea is to pick another date that's not a holiday.
Got it.
I'll just combine.
So if we could move May up a week, that would work for me. We did May 22nd.
Does that give you enough time on having it that early?
May 22nd.
I'll be absent then.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm out of the country from May 15th to June 6th.
I'm assuming that the dates need to stay within about a week of what,
Yeah.
the way they're set up now.
I don't want to speak for Kristen, but legally, no. You could pick any day. It doesn't even have to be a Wednesday. You could pick any day in the month as long as it's properly noticed.
Actually, I can do mid-May, if that would work for everyone else.
It's like 14th, 15th.
The 15th is a Wednesday, yeah.
Does the 15th work for everyone?
Yep.
May 15th? Okay, Ginny, I know it's far in advance, but we have a commission on 14th. We have the chambers on the 15th.
There's a beach stewardship meeting in the morning at 9, but it's open in the afternoon.
Okay, so same time, 2 o'clock work, May 15th? All right.
That worked good for you?
Okay, and what about June?
June.
So June, we cannot move it a week ahead to the 19th because we are closed for Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Could we do the 20th? So I'm out of town the 22nd to the 29th, so that week.
Got it.
But I could do any day of the week.
The 20th work?
It's a Thursday? I have no issue with that.
Does that work for you, Mike?
Yeah, I don't have any specific issues.
I don't have a social life, I'm fine. So June 20th?
Okay.
We'll check with Jenny and make sure
Thursday,
it's all
June 20th is available.
good. It's available? Okay.
Okay, any other changes to it?
So,
You want a motion for this?
yeah, just a motion to approve with the changes.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the changes for the dates in May and June,
Second?
And the rest of the calendar?
and then approve the rest of the calendar.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Chris, have something to say?
Nope.
Nope.
I just, when I say I had to adjust everything, these are my dates. So, no, it's
Roll
perfect.
call, please.
Member Lawson?
Yes.
Member Small?
Yes.
Member Chase?
Yes.
Member Bomar?
Yes.
Chair Skipper?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now you're ready to discuss?
Yes, and this is, I guess, really a question for the board as well as guidance from our assistant city attorney. I've become progressively less comfortable over the past few weeks. I really enjoy the opportunity to serve on this body, and I think it's a great way to help the community. In our last city commission meeting, our city attorney made a point that he feels fairly strongly that he would prefer the residents not be advocates for issues while serving on deliberative boards in the community. And then also over the past couple of weeks, it's become apparent that my wife, who assumed the executive directorship of a group called Protect St. Pete Beach Advocacy Group, it's a local nonprofit that's advocating for the interests of residents on various issues. She's registered as a lobbyist. So I'm now in the odd, and I don't know that it's a tenable position of being a reporting individual who's married to a lobbyist. And it doesn't leave me with a feeling of comfort in terms of that, in terms of mixing those roles. And obviously, we're philosophically aligned on the issues she's discussing. So I don't really know what to do other than to bring it to the attention of the board and frankly offer my resignation, because I feel like our community is facing some existential threats economically in terms of our viability, our viability of being a residential community, looking at our infrastructure needs and how we fund things going forward. And I can't help but advocate. So I guess that's kind of where I'd leave it. And I'm happy to recuse myself if y'all would like to discuss. And you could call me afterwards and let me know.
I'm okay right here.
If the board, I mean, there's no need to, there's no motion or anything in this situation. I think if anything, this is the first time it's happened this way. So, I mean, me personally, I appreciate the transparency. I think it helps the board members to get some clarity.
Who's your commissioner?
It's the mayor?
Mayor.
Yeah, so I'll talk to the mayor. I mean, Jenny, you're taking minutes. So are you effectively resigning as a Board of Adjustment member, or did you want to talk about how these roles interline, or?
Yeah, I just, the part that, I wasn't unduly concerned with the city commission's, with the city attorney's recommendation that board members not advocate, because the things that I'm advocating for are completely orthogonal to the issues we deal with here. But I think what pushed me further over the edge was just the realization that with my wife registering as a lobbyist and I'm a reporting individual, I literally talk with her every day.
Every day, yeah.
And I just think that's a bad look.
I understand.
So.
Or a lot of notes on your.
Yeah. So, and I used to joke with Amber, of course I've never talked to a lobbyist. What lobbyist would want to talk to me? So that doesn't seem tenable. So I'm basically saying that I'm willing to offer my resignation, but I also understand that, given the calendar and things we have coming up, that's not necessary. That may be difficult as well, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a decision today, but I just feel very uncomfortable in this role.
I don't think there's a legal problem with that, is there, Matthew?
It's, when you're talking about it being a board member, and it's all about comfort, right?
Right.
What do you feel comfortable doing? Because if you start to feel uncomfortable, this is a personal decision, and it's hard to find volunteer board members, but at the end of the day, that's what you guys are doing. You're serving the city. And in the presentation, I think we were clear that, you know, no matter if you're at Publix or at a public hearing and you say, hey, I'm speaking as an individual or a board member, the reality is you're a board member, right? You're part of the city umbrella. And I think what Andrew was trying to get at is, it can happen to be both, but if you're more passionate about advocating for something, then do that with no limitations, right? Because if you're also a board member, then you have to think about what you're putting online and what you're saying, and there's other ethic requirements, and the last thing that we want to do is have to defend any of you in an ethics violation. And I understand it's even more difficult living with someone who's now I mean, that seems very tedious in having to do those reports, because I mean, you're talking over dinner and things, so I completely understand where you're coming from. But legal never gets involved in you have to resign or you don't unless we're asked.
I think it's just your personal decision if you feel comfortable enough to continue on, or if you don't, then I'd just do whatever you think you should do.
Gotcha.
I totally respect their situation. I would also say that I think you've been an incredible asset to the board, so thank you for the time that you've given us, and we'd love to have you, but I completely see where you're coming from.
It sounds like a lot of work. Plus, with the sunshine laws, I mean, technically, you could
Well, there's sunshine law.
have to have his cell phone with any communications between him and his wife, and
If someone made public records requests, it would get,
Ugly.
that's
because you are a public official, right? So yeah,
Well, that doesn't.
don't get me wrong, there's privilege. I mean, that gets into a bunch of case law with husband and wife, but he's a public official. She's now a lobbyist. He has reporting requirements. It is what it is. I mean, that's...
Yeah. So I think with that, I appreciate the conversation and discussion, but I need to offer my resignation.
Okay.
Just to give my opinion, I would think that if you're comfortable with, if the mayor can't replace you right away to, go another month or so, that's my opinion. I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know how.
Respectfully, it's immediate.
It's either you're on or you're off.
It's immediate.
Yeah.
And I just want to, I'm not putting any pressure on anyone, right? This is your decision, but if you're resigning, then you're resigning.
Yeah, I can't see filling out the paperwork.
And knowing we only have one case in December, so it's not like we're going into a packed full month. I think that gives ample time to find a replacement for the new year.
You've done a good job, and you've been an asset. It'd be hard to replace you.
Well, I appreciate the chance, and we'll see where things go.
Thank you, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
All right, we have anything else?
No, sir.
And the meeting is December what?
20th.
December 20th. All right,
Motion to adjourn?
wait a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I
We're
You're opposed to adjourning?
I'm going to stay here a little longer.
I want to stay longer.